This is part 3 to What If Deku Had the Abilities from nerrgegante from Monster Hunter World. I had just left off after they went in to take the UA entrance exams, the written paper test. I'll say this time he's actually sitting closer to Ida than to Bakugo. Now, as President Mike is explaining everything, Ida actually still tries to do the whole stand up and try to question President Mike. But as she's about to do that, Deku sets his hand on her shoulders, saying, "Just let the lady speak before you say anything." And then from there, President Mike explains the entire thing. And Deku and Ida says thank you to Deku for making sure she didn't look kinda dumb. And so after that, they go to the starting positions. I'll say Ida isn't there this time because, they're one from the same school. They'll try to separate each other. So I'll say this time, he ended up in the same area as Uraraka, but Bakugo's there this time. So he tries to go forward to the front of the line, but then Uraraka stops him to say thank you for making sure she didn't fall over earlier. He says no problem, to the fact that she looked like she was gonna fall, and it doesn't really feel good to fall, so he just said he just wanted to make sure nothing happened. She then bows slightly and says thank you again. Then he goes to the front of the line. Now, he actually takes up a starting position and transforms slightly to the point, like stage 1, where he has the darkened skin and spikes and tail and wings. He doesn't fly though, again. He just simply takes a running stance. He isn't on all fours, he's like running like a normal person. And then he's off to the races. He gets quite a few, since considering this time he's quite literally a beast. I'll say a few times he grabs a one-pointer and smashes a single one-pointer, a couple of other ones, and then uses his spikes and such to take down 3 two-pointers. So I'll say, at the point when the giant robot comes out, he has 90 points. Then at this point, he actually starts to think, should he attack it? And starts weighing his options. Should he go ahead and try to attack it or not? So he starts weighing it and thinks, it actually probably will be better to take it down, to give everyone more time to come in, get more points. So he rushes forward, but before he does that, he actually sees Uraraka pinned under the rubble like he did before. But instead of jumping up and smashing the robot, he first runs over to her and takes the rubble off. This is when the one-pointer literally raises its fist up and smashes it down. So as Uraraka starts to freak out and says he needs to move, he goes to stage 2, which is he's much larger and more like a full, and he's more like the entire nerrgegante, but he's on 2 legs, and just grabs and just holds the fist back. He just whoosh and starts it starts metal creaking and he tells her to move. She says she can't because she thinks she sprained her ankle. So what he does is that he takes his tail and grows a spike at the end of it. Sort of lifts her up like hooking her on his tail, and he says for her to use her quirk on herself and flings her off kind of a bit. So she does it and she just sort of floats. Now in this case, Deku is starting to actually push back and successfully throws it back. So now this thing's off balance. It's on one leg, and he goes full dragon this time, and immediately charges and rams right into the ankle, actually sending enough force through it that it has to it sort of falls slow motion. And Deku this time is on its back running forward. He actually ends up like doing so. He goes straight for the nape of the neck, so that way it would probably be the easiest to just take care of the robot's head. So he starts slashing, crying. There's sparks going everywhere because of how much he's tearing into this. And eventually he just does enough damage to where the head just falls off like... Everyone's looking at this, and they know what he is. Some of them are wondering why did they let one of his kind in here. Because like I've said before, they're kind of treating as lower. They may be more powerful, but a lot of people just think them to be beasts and animals. And that's also, well, a big part, is that Deku's kind of discriminated against because of what he is. He doesn't really let a lot of people know. He doesn't broadcast it. But those who do know are cool with it. But a lot of people at his school actually did treat him like kind of dumb. They would like antagonize him. He never took the bait because he was smarter than that. He just wanted to show him he could think above, oh, me, strong, blah, blah, and etc. So after he wins, he actually sort of picks Araka up and like lets her ride on his shoulders. He just sort of like, he says, are you okay? Yeah, it's just my leg hurts because I sprained it. So he like picks her up and puts her on his shoulders. So it looks like a dad carrying his daughter. She's just like on his shoulder, like holding on to his horns. And he's just looking around, seeing if there's a recovery girl there. Because I'll say he's probably met recovery girl. Because I'll just say he just has at one point. Let's just say he and All Might trained a bit and that All Might got injured badly. Like, he kind of broke an arm. Because that's how powerful Deku is. He's like 50%, but he can still do some damage. Recovery girl said, oh, it's you, Deku. And he says, yeah, the girl sprained her ankle. Do you mind dealing with that? She says, sure. She does her whole, like, little kiss thing and leg regenerates. Deku says, well, hope to see you in UA, miss. And she says, Ochako. Or Arako. Whichever is her last name. Kind of forget sometimes. But Miss Araka, and she just walks away. After he gets done and gathers his things, he actually gives a call to Ryuko and actually talks about how he did and how he saved a girl. She's like, oh, that's cool. That you may actually get hero points for that. He's like, what? What are hero points? She says, oh, I'll explain it to you when you get home. It'd probably be easier. So, I'm pretty sure you got in. Probably gonna be like the highest score there. Maybe even beat All Might's record. So after that, he just starts walking home. And actually gets a call from Mirio. Mirio actually asked him if he would actually like to hang out with her and, well, the other two of the big three. He says, sure, tomorrow. Actually sounds good. Because he was looking to take a break. So, they meet, after he gets home, he talks to Ryuko and talks about how he's actually going to go hang out with some friends. She's like, oh, Todoroki, Momo, and Ida? He's like, no, like another three that I met. I met one of them because, like, the training with, it's Mirio. She's like, oh, Mirio. So are you meeting with the other big three? He's like, oh. Alright, well, have fun with that. She doesn't really question it at this point. So he ends up like going to sleep. And I'm just gonna say he doesn't have any dreams. It's kind of just black. And he ends up, well, getting ready and dressed up. Not dressed up, but like getting ready in casual clothing. And actually goes off to meet Mirio. I'll say that Sun Eater is still a guy, but Nejire and Mirio are actually girls. So they start walking, and Deku starts like asking the other two like how they met Mirio, and Sun Eater says, well, I've known her since we were actually kids, so a childhood friend. He's like, I met Nejire when we got to UA. And they go on from there. And so eventually, like, I'll say they, like, stop to get some food. And Neji, Ray, and Muriel actually have to go in the bathroom. So Deku kind of, like, bends over the table and says, "So, which one do you like?" And Sun Eater gets all flustered. He's like, "Oh, I don't know what you mean." He's like, "Come on." Deku's like, "Come on. I can tell by the way you seem kind of uneasy. You actually seem kind of nervous. So, is it Muriel? Nejire? Oh." And I'll say, like, Sun Eater's kind of, like, making, like, an embarrassed look face, and he's looking straight down. And Deku's like, "No, you like both." And Sun Eater sort of just, like, does, like, a little, "Oh, no, you figure it out." He's like, "Well, I couldn't really blame you. They both seem like wonderful people, but kind of the opposite to you. Maybe that's why you like them both." You notice they both actually may like you. They do say opposites attract. So as he's having this, like, little moment with Sun Eater and explaining that he could probably just go for it, by the looks of it, those two seem quite nervous as well. Because I'll say that Deku can kind of smell, like how they say they can smell your fear. Well, it actually is a proven scientific fact that your sweat does have, like, a slightly different smell when you are scared, nervous, or any other feelings. So I'll say Deku, like, is kind of just, they reek of nervousness, and I'll say when they get back, Sun Eater says, "Well, I actually gotta go use the bathroom real quick as well." So as Sun Eater leaves, Deku's like, "Alright, have a nice time. Enjoy yourself," or whatever. He actually, like, does again bend over the table and says, "So, who does he go with?" They both look at him like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I can tell. You both like him." They both sort of go like, "Well, I don't know what you mean." Muriel kind of looks away. Neji Ray also kind of looks away, except they're, like, near a window, so she looks outside like, I don't know what you mean. We're all just friends." And he's like, "No, you're not. I can tell." She's like, "Okay, so we both like him. So what?" I've said. He goes like, "Why don't you both just confess?" It's like, "We don't know if he'd be okay with that." "We'd be fine, because we both like him and don't want to lose him." So Deku would somewhat encourage him and somehow convince him that I bet he'd be fine. That he seems actually quite nervous about this as well. "Are you sure that isn't just his nervousness of being around people?" It's like, "No, I can tell. This was kind of like that between, like, awkward nervousness and, like, kind of happy nervousness, if you know what I mean." It's like, "Oh." So I say, if you both have a chance after I'm gonna have to split in a bit, because I said, like, my other group of friends that I hang out with, I kind of agreed to hang out with them today as well. So when I leave, I say you guys go for a walk in the park. I believe there's a park around here, actually. So I say you guys go for a walk. You, like, test the water, sort of. They sort of, like, understand, like, alright, and then what? Well, I think he'd be okay with it. I think you both should confess. You guys have been around each other for 3 years. I bet he wouldn't mind, actually. So they sort of, like, take this and just, like, sort of discuss it amongst each other. Like, sort of like a debate. I say Nejire is actually the one pushing for it. And Muriel's the one kind of, like, questioning it, saying, would he, though? Like, what if he doesn't? What if this just makes everything so awkward? Trust me, it wouldn't. So he, like, reassures them a bunch of more times, and as Sun, he's like, oh, he's coming back. So, after he gets back, I'll leave you guys to it. So he starts scooting out of the little table they're at and says, "Hey, Sun Eater, I'm gonna have to head out. So this is gonna... Sorry, I'm gonna have to leave you three musketeers to yourselves." And so, he actually sort of like bends over and whispers into his ear, "Have fun." And Sun Eater kind of gets flustered. And Nejire and Muriel see this and they're like, kind of blushing as well. So say he just leaves. He seriously just like leaves them to it. He's like, they can figure it out on their own. They don't. Oh well. So as he's going, he actually starts just walking in the direction of where he said he'd meet up with Momo and them. And I'll say that it's like a minor villain, just like ran out of a store, is running his way. He sort of just like clotheslines him. Like the story came out of, he like grabbed the cash register again, and just sort of drags the guy over, and just like says, "Hey, you got anything to tie him up with?" I'd say this guy like has a bit of rope. So they like tie him up, and Deku says, "Have a nice day, sir." The guy says, "Well, before you go, here, have soda on the house." So as Deku's walking down the street, he's just drinking the soda. And I'll say, he also saves a painter that's actually on the roof, on the side of the building, repainting the building. And he sort of stumbles and falls. Deku sort of is able to, like, kind of catch him. Sort of like catches him and sets him down, saying, "You should be more careful, man. That could have ended badly." He's like, "No problem, sir. Oh, watch out." He's like, "Good. Have a nice day." And as he's walking down the streets, I'll say he sorts out a few more things. A bickering couple, he's just like, "Hey guys, this ain't the time or place. It's a wonderful day. Why don't you two just enjoy the day to yourselves? Like, take some time. If you guys need a break, take one. I don't care, because I'm not gonna be here for much longer. But you guys, like, should take today in. Look, it's a nice sunny day. You guys go out on a date or something. I don't know. Figure out your issues." The guy kind of tries to get an attitude. Deku just puts his hands on his shoulders. Sort it out. And he sort of can tell Deku's much, much stronger than him. Because I'll say this guy does have a quirk. He can harden his fist, like, into rocks. And he's like, "Alright, we'll sort it out." It's like, "Good on you." And just leaves again. And after that, he actually makes it to his destination where he says he'll meet up with Todoroki, Momo, and Ida. I'll say today they'll just have like a little fun day. I'll say there's like a little fair they actually go to. And that they go and have fun there. They go through, and I'll say Deku actually pays for it. Momo offers to. Deku's like, "I got it. I have an allowance I can break out." I'll say he doesn't really buy much. He just sort of like grabs some stuff every now and then. So after he gets them inside the park, they all just start going from ride to ride. Excuse me. They go from ride to ride, and I'll say there's like this massive roller coaster. Like it's any stereotypical anime, they have a monster roller coaster. So I'll say they're like, "Okay, we'll go on that last." And after having a fun day, they finally go on it. And, well, they all just sort of go on it. Deku's not the only one who isn't freaking out. He can like tell they're all nervous, so he's like, "Calm down. There's plenty of safety things in place just in case something doesn't. So, in case something does happen, you guys will be fine." And as he says that, that's when it goes like, and just goes off high speed, sort of like Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens. It goes up to like 70 miles an hour. And I'll say this is actually quite big. So, they're like, I'll say Todoroki is nervous. She isn't like the one screaming like ah, ah. She's sort of just like that quiet panicking. Momo is sort of like, I'll say like closing her eyes and just weathering it. Ida is somewhat fine. Like she's used to high speed, so she just sort of takes it like being pressed to the back of the thing, like. And then Deku's just sitting there, just like shaking and twisting and turning whenever like the thing shifts. After they get done with that, I'll say like Momo is just like, I don't want to do that again. So is Todoroki. Deku says he was fine and that he wouldn't mind going on again. Ida just like puts a hand on his shoulder, just no, not again. He's like, alright, fine. And I'll say this time it's pretty late in that Deku's house is actually kind of close to it. So I'll say they actually head over to his house this time. He gives Ryuko a call saying, hey, yeah, like me and the gang just sort of got done having a day. So if you wouldn't mind, I would actually it's kind of getting late, so could we just like have dinner at our place? She kind of mulls it over and says, sure, she wouldn't mind. We'll just have to get out extra plates and drinks. And so after that, they go to Deku's house, and they kind of see it's kind of big. It ain't that big, but it's kind of big. So they go in, and Ryuko has set dinner and such. They all just like sit down. I'll say they're having chicken tonight. I'll say there's 2 chickens, one for them and one for Deku. Because I'll say this, he's a big boy. He needs his dessert. He needs his protein. So as they're eating, they all kind of just talked to Ryuko and talked to her like how she met Deku and all that. And they all like explained how he was a pit fighter in Australia and apparently had just won the championship. That day she actually found the Australian police and heroes sort of cracked down on that entire arena. And they talk about how Deku said he wouldn't do anything unless Ryuko beat him. So she talks about how she like kinda easily just beat him. She's making it seem easier, but Deku's like, no she didn't. And then she just like adds comments, and he's kind of just been following me around like a puppy. It's like, not like, well, actually, yeah, kind of like a puppy. I won't deny that. So they all just say, oh, that's kind of nice. And I'll say it's kind of gotten really late. So I'll say, excuse me. Gotten tired. But I'll say that Deku sort of says that he'll get the guest room ready and break out the futon so they can stay in there. And I'll say they have quite a few guest rooms, so if they each want a different room, they can have it. And I'll say Momo's called her parents, and Ida has called her brother and parents, because I'll say they all kind of live together. Todoroki doesn't call Endeavor, so he's kind of like having this furious moment. And he's kind of angry that she hasn't told him where he was. But he kind of just takes a guess and says, is he with that Ryuko boy? Or, yeah, Deku kid. So he rings Ryuko up and says, is my daughter there? She's like, yeah. Alright. Just hangs up. Actually calls back real quick. You better tell him not to do anything with my daughter. And she's like, I'll make sure, yeah. And then hangs up. So Deku's in his room, and he actually just goes to sleep while the girls have their little slumber party. They all talk about how each of them met Deku and got to know him differently. I'll say that Deku met Momo when Ryuko brought him took him to meet with Momo's parents, talk about more support items, and he just sort of started talking with Momo as well. Did I? Yeah. See, that's another reason, aside from talking about their quirks. And then I'll say that Ida met him, because he actually got into, there was almost the fight with the pack of monsters, almost happened earlier in the cafeteria when they all just start, like when the Rathian, the Odogaron, and the Puke tried to bully him, and he was getting ready to like flip stuff over, but then Ida's like, "This is not the place or time to be fighting. You three, go eat, and you, don't try to get so riled up." He sort of just snorts and goes back to eating, while the other three like try to start calling Ida how she has a stick up somewhere, and then Deku like just sort of grabs up Puke, because I'll say he's the one who said that, and just slams him into the trash can with his legs sticking out. The other two try to do something, but Deku just cracks his knuckles, saying, "You wanna go?" And the two of them just sort of back off, grab the Puke, who's kind of unconscious at this point, just run off. So after that, Ida says, "You didn't have to do that, but thanks." And then with Todoroki, she explains how she, if I remember correctly, I said she approached him after he had the fight. No, I never explained. He actually met her in the library, because I'll say Todoroki kind of likes to read. So after they met in the library, he actually saw what she was reading and asked her what it was about. I'll say it was like a bit of history of when quirks, like monsters like Declan, started popping around. Because she says she was kind of curious about, well, when the monsters started coming about. She uses that term loosely, like with quotations, like when the monsters started coming about, and how they reacted with quirks. Actually says how before there was actually a few extremist groups, called them the Hunters, where some of them were Christian, some of them were just believers that they were just dumb animals that need to be killed. And there's a few others, but I can't think of anything to say, because they won't be of any importance. Then Deku actually starts talking about her, about quirks, and what hers is. She talks about how she has an ice quirk and a fire quirk, but she doesn't use her fire quirk, that she doesn't use his quirk. Deku starts talking about, "What do you mean by my dad's?" And he's like, "It's not his quirk, it's your quirk." And he's like sort of really confused and like tipping his head over, like, "It is your quirk, isn't it? Like, he didn't just sort of force it onto you, did he?" She's like, "No, you were born with it, correct?" "Yeah. So that means it's your quirk, not his." She sort of like tries to process this as Deku continues, like, "And you got an ice and fire quirk? How does that work?" And she says that it sort of works in conjunction with one another, that how people with fire quirks and ice quirks people with ice quirks tend to get frostbite, so they can't really use it. And so people with fire quirks tend to overheat. And that's what her dad was kind of looking to do, was to make a perfect blend of the two. So one could rapidly cool down but also heat up. And Deku actually talks to her about that and says, "Isn't there, I can't remember, but isn't there a disease not a disease, but like if you rapidly cool down or rapidly heat up, you can send your body into shock?" She's like, "Yeah, that is a thing, but I can't really switch and cool down my body fast enough or heat it up that fast, so it really isn't a worry." Like, "Oh, okay." And then the bell rings. "Well, I gotta get to math class." And she's like, I gotta get to math class as well." And he says, "Oh, do you have Miss Sanji?" She's like, "Yeah, actually. So I guess we'll walk there together." They continue to talk as they head towards the class, and that's how she says she met Deku. They said they all met him in quite different ways, and that a lot of them view him as like a brother. They actually talk about that, and like they each say individually, except for Todoroki, that he said to Ida that he kind of views her as like that strict older sister, and he views Momo as like that very smart sister that you'd go to for any math problems. And Todoroki says, he's never really done that for me. They just sort of says, maybe he just doesn't see you as a sister. They all kind of think that for a moment, like, could he be interested in you? And Todoroki's like, nope, we're shutting this down, no more. Alright, good night. And just goes to sleep. Not Todoroki, Ida and Momo actually do go to sleep after a short while. After a request from Todoroki that she's trying to sleep and that they need to go to bed as well. And so, at this point, I say Deku will have another dream. This is like during the time, like one the second to last fight before he gets a shot at the championship, that it's sort of like another person with just a quirk. And I'll say their quirk is kinda, it allows them to turn into like a fire elemental. And that they just like turn into like a giant thing of fire. And that they actually just start blasting him with fire attacks. And that he's actually kinda hard-pressed to beat him. Because he's like trying to swipe at him, but he just goes through him. So he's thinking, how do I beat this person? He's kind of looking around, and then he actually sees something that this person actually, you can like grab onto him. It's just very difficult. So Deku just sort of starts tanking punches and like fakes out of falling unconscious. As this person transforms to try and gloat, Deku grabs him and slams him into the ground right before they are able to notice anything. Everyone's kinda like upset that Deku did this, but never really specified that it was against the rules. So as that's over, he sort of gets his winnings, or his share of the bets. And I'll say the manager for the manager and this fire elemental is part of another gang, just a nameless gang. So as they walk, they all just try to jump Deku. And I'll say they're by some water this time. And that Deku just easily throws a few of them in. And the elemental tries to do something, but this time Deku is able to grab onto him and just tackles him into the water. And since water beats fire, the person really just transforms back into a person instantly. And so after that, Deku just like sort of climbs out of the water, upset that his clothes are kind of ruined now. Because I'll say this is like a sewage water and such. So they're all like crawling out. The only one that's really unconscious is the one who turned into a fire elemental. And I was saying, like, after they get done, they just leave, and he sort of goes home and has a flashback to when he had his first manager in his arms. He doesn't have a manager now. He just does everything by himself. So he just has a flashback and says to himself, he won't fail again. Not again. And just falls asleep. And as he falls asleep in his memory, he wakes back up. After the wake back up, he actually goes downstairs and everyone's actually having breakfast. Like, hello, sleepyhead. How was your last night? How did you sleep? He says fine. And you guys, oh, we did it well. And Todoroki's kind of nervous because she remembers what was said last night. So she kind of just like is quiet more than usual too. Deku's like, what's wrong, Todoroki? She's like, nothing. So I'll say that actually Endeavor comes by and says, I'm here to pick up my daughter. And he sort of just like grabs her. And Ida says she has to go. Ida said that her brother agreed to train with her a bit. And then Deku's like, oh, I guess I'll take you home, Momo, if you want. They said, sure. So as they're heading home, they just start talking. And start reminiscing on some of their past. And like how they got to know each other after. Talking about the first time they met, he's like, I had no idea your parents made quirk uh, support items for quirks. Oh, by the way, is my like pants ready? I asked for. It's like, oh yeah, it's ready. They're just waiting to see if you get into UA. You're like, are you kidding? They're waiting to see. They know I got in. Come on. She's like, chuckle, yeah. They're thinking about sending it to you. They're thinking about sending it to you and like getting you like sized up so that way they can tell like how big you get when you stretch. She's like, alright. So after that he like arrives home and just says, well, here you go, I gotta head back. And after like he says, I hope you got in, and she's like, I hope you did too. He's like, you kidding? You know I did, like I said earlier. Nobody doubts I didn't get in. And I bet you got in too. Nick gives her like a little smack on the back and tells her have a nice day. And he just starts going home now. He actually gets a call from the arena manager saying, hey, yeah, you got a new challenger. He sort of like has like an argument saying, I told you, I cut that off. I'm not doing it anymore. It's like, come on. There's been a ton of people lining up to fight you. He's like, fine, get someone else. Have a tournament or whatever to find a new champion. Told you, I'm done. Just like hangs up saying, doesn't hang up actually. He's like, if you need me and it's emergency, I'll come. But I told you, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm done with the pits. And he just hangs up after that before they have a chance to like try and convince him otherwise. So as they're waiting there, they sort of like announce, so it's been a recent development that the champion has retired. So to find a new champion, we're holding a tournament. Everyone's like starts going crazy, like, yeah. And a lot of people who like fought and lost against Deku are kind of bummed they aren't gonna get a chance of rematch, especially Rampa. But Rampa thinks that Deku would hold to his word that if Rampa said the time and place, he'd come back. So what happens is that he ends up trying to find Deku and tries to get in contact, but he can't because, well, let's say at this point he's been defeated by Overhaul, and now he's part of the 8 precepts of death. He sort of like heard this down the little grapevine of underground fighting. So I'll say that he hears about the tournament and actually goes, like, has somebody record it for him, and he actually watches it. He's actually kind of very disappointed on how some of these people are. The only one that looks somewhat interesting to him is another monster person, and I'll say it's actually the Diablos that Deku fought. She actually heard that he, from, like I said, the underground grapevine, that underground fighting pits, that Deku was actually the champion. She was actually going there for a rematch, but since that wasn't worth it, he wasn't doing it anymore, she sort of just decided that, well, maybe I should give this a shot. And she does, and I'll say she actually wins. And this is why I say Rampa thinks it's pretty interesting, is because, well, Deku actually struggled with Diablos in a strength match. Like, Deku was able to defeat her, but only after, like, snapping off a horn and, like, causing her a lot of pain. I'll say the horn is actually malformed. It isn't, like, perfectly symmetrical, like, along. So I'll say it's, like, twisted up. And she's actually kind of very angry at this. So she sort of, like, pushes that in with while she's fighting. Is that she imagines it's Deku and that she just smashes him. So this is about 40 minutes long, so I gotta stop this. So after that, Deku actually calls a manager, so it's like this is the day he gets the letter. and he sees it and he's like, and as All Might explained that he also got hero points. It's like, yeah, I knew about that. Ryuko explained it to me. And so he's like, you got into 1A. And Deku is like, kinda, like, very excited. He like goes like, yeah! And Ryuko heard this from underneath. She just like gives like a slight smile. And this has gone on for over 40 minutes. Almost over 40 minutes. So I'll have to stop this here. I hope you guys, whoever else watches this, enjoys it, and I hope you have a nice night. Alright, bye.